So I'm gonna start now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stream of Thoughts. Today, we are joined by Violeta Ivanova to talk about her journey of settling in Finland and navigating her life in Finland. Let's get to hear about her struggles and journey. And welcome to Stream of Thoughts, and we are honored to have you.
Hi,
Um,
thank you so much for inviting me.
it's our pleasure. So, first question, and very basic question you might have been asked this a lot of times. How did you move to Finland? What was your motive of moving to Finland, and how long you have been living in here in Finland?
Uh, so I've been living here for about 13 years now. I moved in 2011 in the middle of winter at the darkest time of the year in December. The initial goal was just to spend a Christmas holiday here, but I ended up staying and canceling my return tickets because it felt like I had found home. So I've always been interested in living up north. I've always preferred the cooler climate as well. So life here just happened to suit me well, so I stayed.
Hmm. Okay, interesting to know. So, la- did you get any, like, take us after that? Like, how did you plan to stay in Finland? Like, what was the motive, and did you start any education from there on in any Finnish university or any other institute, or and what is your background basically like?
Yeah, so being 19 years old at the time, I already spoke four languages, but Finnish was not one of them. Um, Prior to that, I had planned to potentially study in Sweden, but that was still being in the process of figuring it out. When I moved to Finland, I moved to Rauma, and I was already having an education as a journalist from high school level, a humanitarian high school in Bulgaria. Um, but that was not a good winning strategy to get employed in Finland when you're just not speaking Finnish or having any local work experience. So figuring out what I wanted to do, what kind of work is even needed, what can I study in English specifically, preferably in my area because I really like Satakunta. That took a few years, and in some way it's still being work in progress. I think that's the common issue with everybody with a non-linear career path in life, that it's always a work in progress. But it took a few years before I could figure out what to do. So doing odd jobs here and there, whatever I could get, while trying to learn Finnish and trying to figure out what kind of career can I build for myself here, and just not knowing anything about anything. I was very motivated. I wouldn't recommend that path to anybody. I was very motivated at the time in trying to figure things out here.
Interesting. So, do you think Finland has changed? I mean, in the sense of that the time when you moved, when you came here just for spending a vacation, and then you decided and that you want to live here. And if you think at this time, if you have come for vacation at this time of the year, and I mean, at this time where the situation is not that good, would you have decided to live in Finland for a longer period of time?
I think yes, because now the opportunities are far greater. And in that sense, I have come in a way full circle because when I initially moved to Rauma, I very quickly realized that there's no services in there for me. Nobody's speaking English. Not that TE-toimisto, not anybody. Even getting a bank account was a problem, and it took multiple visits and over a couple of months time to sort that out. So I very quickly realized, okay, I can't get anything here. I can't get Finnish language lessons. I can't get work, so I have to move. So I moved to Turku afterwards, and there I managed to get some work. I managed to get some services and to learn some Finnish language. subsequently moved to Pori to study physiotherapy. And now I am back in Rauma, working for the City of Rauma, trying to build services for foreigners to make the integration process easier so that people decide to actually stay in Rauma in the region and not move away. So it has been a journey, and unfortunately, 13 years later, we are still having some of the same conversations. Only this time I'm in a very privileged position to be able to ask the right people, but why hasn't this been done? Because I had to deal with this 13 years ago. Why hasn't it been done now? When there's so many more students locally, there's so many international workers, and with the latest trends that it used to be in the past that if a spouse moves here for work or for studies, after they've graduated and after they have a stable job, then they would try and bring their family here. But now the trend is completely different, to the point where people are starting their studies uh, and they've already brought their family here as well. So all of a sudden, there's so many more people that need services. Um, there's not enough spots in education for children. There's not enough work for spouses. There's not enough services for all of them. And particularly Southern Satakunta, like Rauma has 10% of the overall population are foreigners. So that's a huge amount of people that are in desperate need of services, and nothing has been done so far, or at least the efforts that have been done are vastly insufficient. So trying to really tackle that as fast as we can. Like the project that I'm working on is 2 years. So we're trying to get things sorted as soon as possible. But I still think that people now have far better opportunities than I did,
Mm.
even if it's just options for education in English. There's so many more options now available.
So, that's I must say, like, as a foreigner living here for that many years and seeing a person from a different background and working for a city position, it's very impressive. So, how did you get that position? Did you get any mentors, or did you get enough support from your um, peers, from educational peers in academia, or how did you get that support to find the direction? Because I seen that, like, many of the foreigners that I see in my circle, for example, even PhDs are doing cleaning jobs or other odd jobs. They can't find job in the industry. They can't find, for example, funding opportunities in academia or so. So they are struggling to find the job. How did you end up in that position? What others should do to make themselves stand out?
It's That's a really valid issue, particularly in terms of like also the clients that we've had through my work at the city, and also through my organization, Pori Entrepreneurship Society, where we do run workshops that they try to help foreigners to get those soft skills that they can't find anywhere else, and to really help them navigate the workforce, not necessarily as only an entrepreneur as an option, as many foreigners result to entrepreneurship because there's nothing else. But also how to do it right, how to do services right, but also what other contract possibilities are, how they can develop their careers, um, and to really utilize their strengths within the field that they're looking for. One particular group that is very much at risk are exactly foreigners, very highly academically achieved, PhD level, who can't seem to find work. Couple of very clear issues come up with those people over and over again, is that they don't understand the level of expertise PhD gives you in Finland. That is the highest level of expertise you can get academically. So therefore, if you are looking for a job, then the employer has to pay you according to that level of expertise. But then when you're looking for an entry-level job, they simply can't afford you. So you need to be really looking on your own level in terms of job positions or senior positions, expert positions, and so on. So a big issue is people just simply not looking into the right niche for their job. And in Finland, it's not that common to get a PhD, or if you get a PhD, it's way further down your career path. So if you just happen to be studying continuously and getting a bachelor's, master's, and straight after that PhD, and then you start to look for work, you're going to have a really hard time because you have academic experience, but not actual work experience. So that's where the dissonance comes, and it's really unfortunate. And we do try to help these people with um, any kind of other guidance we can give so that they really get that the self-respect back, because it's not nice if you're so highly achieved but then you're supposed to do a cleaning job or a restaurant job or something like that. So we try to give people back their self-respect and self-assurance that yes, you actually can do the work and you can do expert work and get paid really, really well, because in a lot of cases, these kinds of experts, there are not that many in Finland and they might be very needed, but you really have to find where your niche is. And
I
in terms
was
of, yeah,
um, I was going to ask different question, but this topic is also very interesting. Actually, the thing is when foreigners come, they usually come for bachelor's or master's, and switching into PhD is not an option or going into industry. It's the only job that most of us find, because in PhD you don't need language requirements. If there is a funded project, you can easily get it. So most of the foreigners nowadays, they after doing masters, instead of wasting their 1 year or more in learning language, or having a year gap to find other jobs in the industry which they can't find. They are not they don't want to maybe do PhD, but they do PhD because there is no other option. And when after doing masters, they feel that when they're doing PhD, they feel like they are at least doing something. They're not wasting themselves by doing cleaning jobs. And after they're done with PhD, then there are no jobs as well. So um, you are a city person. I mean, working with the city. I have um, I have listened so many stories because I also work in academia, so this is my field. But I have listened so many stories from my colleagues that when after PhD they become unemployed, they go to the employment services, and the first thing they say is, "Please, we can help you how to make a CV." Or highly educated foreigners who come from abroad, they are highly educated, they have work experience, but they go and they say, okay, let's help to make a CV. Let help. We can help you to make a CV. That's the first step. I mean, this is not the first step. I'm sorry, but this is not the first step. The first step is help, like trying to find the employment opportunities. What do you think is lacking in help from employment services or stakeholders? I think they're not able to bridge the gap between the companies who can employ foreigners. The companies are still hesitant to employ foreigners. And how city is thinking, no, I mean, what do you think employment services should improve? I mean, not just
of
making the CV, of course, but I mean the concrete steps, you know?
yeah, it is a known issue, and it's the reason in a way why the workshops that we host, from my organizational point of view, we get a lot more visitors than the unemployment office gets, because yes, we do also offer CV advice, but it's more along the lines of what your CV needs to include and how you should pitch yourself based on your CV, and that should answer the job application. So more like how do you read the job application, so then you can fix your CV to match that, and then how do you pitch yourself based on what you can do. The way the unemployment office works, and obviously these are also people who are currently, since 1st of January this year, they are also part of my team. So I'm in the internationality team. um so integration and internationality, I think, would be the correct way to translate it. And we have a lot of EURES experts who deal with employment movement around all of Europe, or the EU area at least, as well as experts that have been dealing with foreigners for years. Couple of very clear issues within that system, and that also comes from personal experience. Like when I moved to Finland, like, then naturally I was directed to the TE services, and I got zero from them. I got the CV clinic, obviously, and I got the suggestion on where to go to study Finnish language in Turku. But my whole integration process involved one meeting face to face a year, me being told, okay, you're doing great, see you next year. And then in 5 years, I just got a email that your integration process is now complete. Congratulations. And it's like, I got nothing out of it. So I got no past the CV, which was pointless because like I already knew how to do that. Past that, I got nothing. I got no mentorship. I got no career coaching. I got nothing. They just saw somebody who is motivated and proactive and decided, also being from the EU, there are definitely irregularities with how people perceive those from EU versus how they perceive those from outside of EU. And of course, if you're from outside of EU, you get actually a lot more programs when it comes to integration. But if you're from the EU, it's like, okay, you're doing fine, kind of thing, even though EU was not created all equal. But I did not get that support. I figured it out on my own. And based on that journey, we have started to coach other people because it's been a trial and error for 13 years. Uh, the One of the major issues is that they have quite strict guidelines on what they need to advise on and how they need to advise on from an official perspective. Those guidelines are very far outdated, and I am banging the door as hard as I can to try and update those methods. But the reality is also that a lot of those workers have been working in there for longer than I've been alive. So their idea on how the working um, field is and what that means for young people is extremely outdated, because they've had a permanent position for over 30 years. So they're not worried about the things that young people nowadays are worried. Like getting a permanent position is nearly impossible for somebody who is in their 20s or 30s, because most fields just don't give you that. You get the 2 3 year contract, if even that, and then you have to figure it out again. So that's an extra drain. But the other thing is the employers. So the TE office, they don't work with all employers, partially because a lot of employment companies try to get workers through outsourced HR services. So they would hire a company and pay them to handle the recruitment process. So in a lot of cases, a company, especially if it's a bigger company, they don't even have anything to do with the recruitment process. They just say, we need this kind of person and for this kind of job, and that's the pay, and that's by when we need them, and then a company will handle that for them. In a lot of cases, they go through private companies as well, not the office. So it gets very convoluted. What kind of workers can the TE office recommend to which companies? And in a lot of cases, for foreigners especially, Finnish language is a requirement. That is something that we've tried to talk with companies about, that it's very unrealistic, especially like I've worked in healthcare as a physiotherapist in a hospital environment. That's the only place where I can excuse the need for Finnish language. Nowhere else, pretty much. Like, unless you work in an official position where people's lives depend on your skill or their livelihood, then it should not be a requirement. And even then, I started working with very low to average Finnish skills. And as a student in physiotherapy, my first summer job was in an elderly home. Nobody cared. We still had a good fun with the patients, and my language developed a lot more through work. But for a lot of people, that can be an immediate no because they think that the workers are going to have a really hard time if they don't speak Finnish and that they're going to be outsiders. And then that the rest of the community at work is not going to be managing because they need to accommodate. And then they just decide, well, we would rather just get a Finnish person instead.
Mm,
Um, I've since my last name is Ivanova, I've faced quite a few rejections based on just my name straight out, um, because people just assume. Uh, so I wouldn't say it's necessarily racism. I think it's the same thing all over the world, no matter where you go. A local is always going to have the advantage compared
mm,
to someone else. Uh, we try to help people find their niche and how they can kind of circumvent that's the reality. No matter which country you go to, you will have the disadvantage by being the foreigner. So I think that's partially the problem as well in the smaller regions as well, in the more countryside particularly. But now that municipalities have, in the newest strategy, almost all municipalities in Finland have in their strategy to be increasing the possibilities for foreigners and including foreigners into the whole population. So now that they have that in the strategies and everybody has signed it, they just need somebody who's going to keep asking them questions, or the uncomfortable questions, which is what I have been doing. Basically keeping them accountable and making sure that they actually fulfill those strategies, that it's not just a nice paper that's
mm,
going to get written in 4 years' time, and that they actually get the work done and from the top manage to get the businesses to hire more foreigners and get the foreigners to understand better how the system works, in Finland at least. But it's a long process. CE services are definitely changing. The biggest change happened now in 1st of January. So we are hoping that people
mm.
try to modernize a little bit their own experience and their own knowledge as well. Um, in my experience, it really depends which kind of representative you get. um, I would say the worst thing based on the like the office experience is not necessarily just the CV thing. For me, the first thing always has been, have you considered moving to a bigger city?
Mm.
And that's from being in Pori, for example, because I happened to graduate during COVID. So it's like, what rehabilitation services? So obviously straight to unemployment office. And the first thing I was told, regardless of everything I had written in my application, in my CV, in my website, anything, the first thing I was told is like, have you considered moving to a bigger city? And the second one was, have you considered entrepreneurship? And that's also not right. And I have definitely raised the alarm that I don't want to hear any cases of people being offered that instead of actual advice, because that's just ridiculous. When we're trying so hard to help people find a place here, then they go to the office and then somebody tells them, have you considered going to Helsinki? And then they go to Helsinki and they struggle the same, only it's
Yeah.
more expensive.
Mm,
So it's like it's not a solution.
mm,
But it's a process. I would hope that there are more foreigners working for the city services because definitely it's a minority.
mm.
And I wish more cities employed people who actually have had experiences in the in the um, whole process of integration,
Do you
so that
think
then they can fix it.
it's a long debate? I think. I mean, they office the services they have been offering. The stories are the same. I mean, what you said, what I have heard from my colleagues as well, from my own experience as well. Whenever you go, they say the same. Go to entrepreneurship side or either move to a bigger city. You might have opportunities in a bigger city. And then I've seen my friends relocated to bigger cities and they are still facing the same problem they were facing in a smaller city. So I don't know, but hopefully things will change with these reforms would be useful for foreigners and people like you who are questioning them, pushing them to have foreigners in their agenda in the job employment would be helpful for foreigners. But do you think in Finland, Finnish is an official language? Very least amount of population speaks Swedish as well. Do you think there's a space for English language as official workforce language, not the public documentation language, but just the official workforce language? That the government make companies to work in English to hire the people.
I think that will be very difficult to pass, but some municipalities, at least my point of view is from Rauma, have made it a requirement for larger companies who want to set foot in Rauma, that one of the requirements would be that they will be taking international workers in their workforce. So that is something that cities can do, or like at least counties. Anyone who is having a large project being built. I think that is also the municipal responsibility to ensure that all of their population is actually employed. Because if people are employed, they're more likely to stay there. They're more likely to keep their family there, and that's already including so much more power into the living environment in a community that. A lot of municipalities should be doing that. I don't think on a government level that would come because there's still a lot of people who are not that positively shifted towards
Mhm. Mhm.
foreigners and foreign workforce coming into the country. But also the reality is that foreigners are already coming into the country by means of studying most commonly. So then those people will study here for 4 years, 5 years, and what then? Because they're already here. So the municipalities would need to really think, how do we keep those brains here? Because we have ready professionals that are highly educated. So how can we keep them so that then our area can grow and our businesses can grow, and those people are going to be buying houses, their kids are going to be participating in sports, they will be buying groceries and paying taxes. So that's a lot of power into the whole civic system. Uh, a lot of municipalities are not doing what they need to do to accommodate it. They think that somehow magically people are just going to stay here or something. But I think they also need some pressure from the inside, and uh, people who actually keep them in check. Because I think, unfortunately, a lot of those strategies, although written really nicely, they will not be fulfilled because it's also local Finnish people trying to figure out what is the experience for foreigners and how do we fix that. Um, Instead of actually getting foreigners to tell their experience and to solve the problem in a way that it fits a lot more people. So they at least have the point of view of somebody who had to move here. Language is one very big issue, and it's brought up so much. And I think the main misunderstanding there is, from at least the official point of view, is that we want everybody to learn Finnish like this, like everybody straight to the Finnish course ASAP, learn the language tomorrow so then you can get work. What they don't understand is that foreigners already come speaking 2, 3, 4 languages. So then you really need to find a reason. Why would you start studying such a limited language? A lot of foreigners in Turku were studying Swedish instead because it's much more easy to learn, and you also get options in all of Scandinavia with that. But to learn Finnish, then what's the motivation for it? Why should I start learning such a limited and extremely difficult language? Um, People need that reason first, and not to be pushed straight into the language course. um, which can determine how well they're going to learn it and how fast they're going to learn it. They would still need the services before that. So how do we ensure that people get access to services and get possibilities so that then they can decide that I would actually like to stay here and I would like to learn the language. Um, so I would start doing that, but they've already taken steps beforehand.
Mm,
That has not come to anybody's mind. To the people that I have spoken, they have not thought for a second that somebody might actually need some kind of tangible motivation to learn the language. Because I have explained it to them that for foreigners, they're a very mobile bunch of people. If I don't find services here and I don't have a reason to stay or I don't have opportunities, I'm going to move somewhere else where
mm,
I can get those services. And they don't really understand that. They want everybody to stay. But when you tell them that, okay, but I need a reason to stay, and I have nothing else. I don't have family here, so why should I stay
mm,
if I could move somewhere else? So trying to figure out from that bottom level, like the first step that is there to give people a reason to stay, give them the opportunities, and then they will figure out what language they can use and how they're going to learn Finnish, because that's going to take what, like 5 6 years to speak properly. In some cases it can even take 10 years. So like, what are you going to do before that?
mm.
Why would you stay before that? What's going to keep you going? That is something that is very much misunderstood, that they just want everybody straight to the language course and tomorrow to be fluent.
Do you think there is a need for in-job learning as well to promote the idea of in-job language learning? So, I mean, some hours utilized for learning job, but those hours should be counted as your work hours. So I have seen many people who are demanding for this, who are coming up in, for example, I had a podcast recently with David. He's standing for Helsinki municipal elections, and his agenda is that in-house, in-job language learning, and many other are also speaking about this. What do you think about this, and have you suggested this to the Finnish policymakers that you interact with?
Yeah, it has been definitely discussed. It would be great to happen. We have some really good examples, even from local ones, especially healthcare. So there is Attendo is one of the largest providers of this kind of service homes for elderly or for developmental disabilities. So they have started a couple of pilots here in Pori that um, they give people the opportunity. Like Attendo is notorious for hiring foreigners, foreign nurses and physiotherapists on staff, because they have realized that we do actually need people, and these are ready professionals graduated on the same level as everybody else. So we're just gonna have them and give them the opportunity to learn, so they would have uh, just a language promoting language learning promoting environment. So they will have like notes on the fridges or on different things in both English and Finnish to know what it is. They would allow, I think their workers had like 2 to 3 hours weekly to study Finnish, and they would have a room with a couple of laptops so people could follow language courses. One of the biggest issues for people, and also my problem, because spoken Finnish, I have it relatively fluent, but my written language has suffered a lot because I managed to get to work, but that meant also as a physiotherapist on a day job, I couldn't make it to any Finnish language courses that were in the middle of the day.
Mm,
Um, so that is always brought up as an issue that nobody again has thought of. And again, when it comes to unequal opportunities to learn the language, nowadays a lot of the conversation comes up with, but how can some Ukrainians learn the language within 1 to 2 years? Okay, but they get uh, organized classes every single day or many times a week in Ukrainian with Finnish. It's a lot easier to
mm.
learn a language when it's spoken into your own language. And in my experience, most of the Finnish language courses, they don't even include English in them. it's Finnish in Finnish. So then you have a lot of guessing to do, and it's a headache and a half. Um, so like these kind of stumbles along the way, if the employer could give you 1 hour a day for Finnish learning, I think a lot of people would be so much further. And especially if they purchase some kind of online service like EduHouse or something else that involves like language learning, then the same way that you can ensure your employers get other skills that you need at the job, if you need a worker to be speaking better Finnish, let them learn the language. People scroll on Instagram and TikTok for longer than 1 hour at the work time. Like it's nothing. 1 hour is nothing. So they might as well just give it to people to learn the language and create that loyalty also within the workforce, that if an employer allowed you to grow and to develop, you will be more likely to stay there.
Hmm. What do you think foreigners who are working at a good position in different bigger companies, smaller companies, what they can do to promote employability of other foreigners from same field, how they can create positions for other foreigners, or how they can inspire their company to hire more people from who can't speak Finnish language.
I think one of the cases is my project is currently hiring for a second project worker. So um, I have required the person to speak minimum English. And I would prefer that it's another foreigner, and I would prefer that they're from maybe outside of the EU, because my experience as somebody who is within the EU does not include the experience of somebody who is from outside of the EU. Like I never had to deal with visas, for example. So somebody who has that kind of knowledge would be a lot more beneficial. So I have requested that preferably a foreigner would be a better match for this project. The reality is that a lot of positions also require high level of Finnish language. So it's questionable whether or not they will actually hire another foreigner, or if they will be looking for a better suited Finnish candidate. Um, but that's one thing that can be done if somebody is in a position to be uh, making suggestions to those who are hiring for positions. I think that should be done, and respecting other people's experiences. Uh, I would say if a foreigner is hired at a higher position somewhere, that company already hires foreigners.
Mhm. Okay.
For somebody to get that high position, most likely the company hires also on lower positions. If they don't, and if the person can affect it, then they should be speaking up about that.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of other other fields, it's unfortunate that a lot of fields just don't, in general, don't hire a lot of foreigners. Um, so it is a very difficult thing. What can people do? So uh, at least from my perspective, I try to bang on all the doors that I can and to um, ask the uncomfortable questions. But I'm also in a position where I can do that, and that was like a from the get-go discussed when people hired me, that I will get the results, but I will also ask the uncomfortable questions. And then people will not like that because then they need to answer.
Hmm.
So that was a preface of me being hired. But a lot of people are not comfortable doing that, or in their work environment, they're not allowed to do that, and they don't have that privilege. So it is complicated. But I would wish that people try to at least change somehow the company policies into getting more foreigners on board.
Last question. Any tips for the people who are coming to Finland or who are already living in Finland and struggling to find a job? What are the tips that you would like to give them, how they can change themselves, how they can make more hiring friendly, sort of?
The easy answer to that is visit pories.fi/toolbox and you will find all the necessary information in a lesson kind of course, little short course form that is fully free and in English. The longer answer to that is finding your niche, finding what you're really good at and following through with that, but also keeping your options open. The work culture in Finland is a lot more different from any other place that I have lived in, and I think it is unique in that sense that you can build a career really successfully. You get the growth possibilities, but also you have to be proactive. And that's something that people really forget, that you cannot just get a degree and then get a job and then work on that job until you retire. That's not a thing in Finland. A lot of recruitment happens and a lot of competition happens during recruitment because it's so easy to change a job that people just keep changing them. Even those who have a stable job, they would just change it on a whim in 5 years and decide, well, I want to do something else actually, or I want to randomly study something else and then work in another field. So people actually do that, and they do it a lot in here. Mm, so having to deal with constant recruitment, it's a very flexible environment as well. And if you don't have something that really sets you apart, you're gonna have just a lot more competition to deal with. Um, Bigger cities are not always the answer. Well, Helsinki and metropolitan area may have better opportunities in terms of getting a job in with English. That doesn't necessarily mean that you will have better opportunities overall, because everybody thinks there's better opportunities, so everybody goes there. So your competition is far bigger, and then you just have greater need to have something that sets you apart. Um, in that sense, smaller cities may have better opportunities to create networks and to get to know people, because it's more often than not the same people involved in everything, and to actually build something from the get-go. Even Pori, which is like a medium-sized city, if you're a member of like a volunteer organization, like Pori is relatively small and relatively young, but even in that kind of level, you can just send an email to the mayor and ask for a brunch, and it might be busy schedule, but you will get to that within a month or so. You kind of can do that in smaller places, but you cannot do that in Tampere, Turku, or Helsinki. So sometimes option can be to look towards the smaller places. Come to Satakunta, obviously. It's a great place. It's not the easiest place, but it's also a lot more opportunities in that sense. And a lot of smaller municipalities have these kinds of projects for enrichment, and depending on what you like to do or what you want to do in life, you may have better opportunities in smaller places. Obviously, learn the language. That's a no-brainer. Unfortunately, it is a country where Finnish is the official language, so it will be a requirement to learn it. If you want to learn Swedish, you can, but then you have to really look into those Swedish speaking areas and get connections in there. Mhm. Otherwise, it's just you just gotta be flexible. You gotta have options, and you also want to be continuously improving yourself. If you're not that kind of person, if you're somebody who is not particularly ambitious, who does not dream of a career, or who doesn't necessarily want to make a change, you just want a job and that you work the job, I would really think about what kind of field are you happy to be in, for as long as possible, and then really find the best company in that field that suits you, because that is also possible. Um, but you really have to be specialized into that one field, even if that means getting an entry level job as a cleaner. uh, you can still get improving of your skills and improvement of your knowledge, and you will be expected to do that regardless of the position. So being the best that you can at the job that you do is going to ensure how long you stay at the job. And in general, being able to do many things, not just one simple task, because that's usually not enough in a workplace. And I
Mhm.
think this is kind of where most foreigners are really missing the point that um, you have to be able to do a lot of things to do them well and to be willing to develop yourself in them. And it all happens proactively. And that's something that the Tomisto does not tell you, that you
Mm.
have to be proactive. You have to want to develop yourself and that you're expected to do that, but no one's going to tell you to do it directly.
Okay.
Um, so it's something I would really recommend to people to look at what are your steps that you need to take and what are the requirements. LinkedIn is a good place for that, to see what requirements are on job positions and what skills people in the same kind of position have or hire, so that you know where you're aiming at.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. There are lots of interesting questions to discuss, but I'm afraid I think we have to stop here. But if needed, we can arrange another podcast. And I want to thank to you for taking time out, even after a long, busy day, to have podcast with us. And I think we our listeners will get to learn a lot from what you said today. And I also, as a person, as a foreigner, as a person with immigrant background, I also want to thanks to you for the work that you're doing with the city and helping to promote the jobs for foreigners in Finland. And so, thank you very much, everyone who have listened. And if you have listened, please, if you have any few last words you want to say,
um have faith, maybe,
okay,
for people, like,
don't lose
have,
hope.
yeah, don't lose hope. It's a long process getting employed in Finland. The whole career building is a never ending thing. Like, that's what they don't tell you in school, that it's a never ending path. You always have to keep developing that, and don't lose hope, because you will find your place and you will get rejected a lot. But at the end of the day, if you get rejected based on the sheer fact that you're an immigrant, that is not a place that you want to be working at anyway. And I would also say, personally, be proud. If you're not treated well at an interview, leave. You don't have to be there. If you're not treated well at work, also leave. You don't have to be there. It's okay to keep grudges and to just not recommend an employer to other people, so that then they don't have to deal with this same nonsense. Um, and to be very critical about that as well, because Finland does give you plenty of rights when it comes to that. Um, and yeah, keep trying. You will find a place.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very nice and appreciative words and motivating words. So, everyone, thank you very much for listening and see you in another podcast. Bye bye.